The broadcast echoed across 1,000 star systems, a spectacle that promised to reshape galactic understanding. The central transmission hub of the stellar dominion pulsed with holographic displays, each one showing the faces of 6 legendary champions about to make history. Zarkon, the crystalline warrior from the obsidian peaks of Centauri Prime, adjusted his neural interface with practiced precision. His translucent body refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, a living weapon that had conquered 100 battlefield environments. Beside him, Krell of the Granite World stood motionless, his silicon-based physiology making him virtually indestructible in most combat scenarios. The broadcast host, a multi-limbed commentator from the communication nexus of the Galactic Central Network, began the formal declaration. Citizens of the known universe, today we witness an unprecedented challenge. The Stellar Dominion offers the most extraordinary proposition in recorded galactic history. Massive screens across viewing platforms display the terms of the challenge. A single human would be given 3 minutes to survive in the most advanced combat arena ever constructed. The arena itself was a marvel of technological engineering, a space that could instantaneously reconfigure its gravitational fields, energy patterns, and environmental conditions. It had been designed to be unbeatable, a testament to the combined technological might of 6 advanced civilizations. The prize was beyond imagination. Whoever sponsored the human would receive immediate diplomatic recognition, unrestricted trade rights across multiple star systems, and a credit allocation that could fund entire planetary economies. The stakes were so high that even the most conservative galactic governments found themselves drawn into the spectacle. Scientists from the Quantum Research Collective had spent decades studying human capabilities. Their extensive research consistently showed humans to be among the least physically capable species in the known universe. Fragile bodies, limited sensory perception, and a relatively short evolutionary timeline made them seem like the most unlikely candidates for survival. Yet something about humans continued to intrigue the galactic community. Their rapid technological progression, unpredictable problem-solving skills, and capacity for adaptation had begun to catch the attention of more observant civilizations. This challenge was as much a scientific experiment as it was an entertainment spectacle. The betting systems across the galaxy lit up with frenzied activity. Sophisticated quantum algorithms calculated probabilities, with most putting the human's survival chances at less than 0.01%. Entire planetary economies began placing wagers, transforming the challenge into a global event that transcended mere entertainment. Political leaders watched with mixed emotions. Some saw an opportunity to demonstrate their species' superiority, while others recognized the potential for a paradigm-shifting moment. The transmission reached every known civilization, every research station, every remote outpost scattered across the vast reaches of space. Inside the preparation chambers, teams of alien technicians made final adjustments to the combat arena. Quantum stabilizers hummed with potential energy. Gravitational modulators stood ready to create environments that would challenge the very concept of physical survival. Advanced sensor networks prepared to track every microscopic detail of the upcoming confrontation. The Stellar Dominion had designed this challenge as the ultimate demonstration of their technological superiority. No species had ever survived more than 72 seconds in this environment. The 6 champions represented the pinnacle of evolutionary and technological enhancement, being so advanced that they were more machine than organic, more weapon than living creature. As the final preparations completed, a sense of anticipation spread across the galaxy. This was more than a challenge. This was a moment that could potentially rewrite everything known about biological potential, about survival, about the very nature of adaptation. The countdown began. The Deep Space Salvage Station hummed with its usual mechanical rhythm when the challenge broadcast first arrived. Most workers paused, their varied alien and human colleagues gathering around the communication screens. Marcus Rodriguez continued working, his hands moving with practiced precision across a complex array of damaged communication relays. Years of salvage work had taught Marcus more than most academic programs could ever hope to teach. Each broken system was a puzzle, each damaged component a challenge waiting to be understood. His current project involved reconstructing a communication array from 3 different technological generations, a task that would have defeated most specialized engineering teams. He hadn't always been a salvage worker. His background was a patchwork of experiences that defied easy categorization. Once a specialized systems engineer for interstellar exploration missions, Marcus had seen firsthand how complex environments could change everything. His last mission, a deep space reconnaissance expedition, had been both his greatest triumph and his most profound lesson in survival. The expedition had gone catastrophically wrong when their primary systems failed in an uncharted sector. While other crew members panicked, Marcus had systematically repurposed equipment, created makeshift solutions, and managed to keep the team alive for 17 days with nothing more than emergency supplies and his own ingenuity. Of the original 12-person crew, 11 survived, a miracle by any standard of deep space exploration. His colleagues at the salvage station respected him, though few truly understood his approach. Where others saw broken technology, Marcus saw potential. His workstation was a testament to this philosophy, a collection of seemingly random components that he could transform into functional systems with remarkable speed. When the challenge broadcast reached the station, most of his colleagues laughed. The alien champions were legendary, their capabilities beyond human comprehension. The survival requirements seemed impossible. Most humans would see certain death. Marcus saw an interesting problem to solve. The station's communication officer approached him, a mixture of humor and genuine curiosity in her voice. "Rodriguez, you're not seriously considering this challenge, are you?" Her multi-jointed fingers gestured to the broadcast still playing on the screens. Marcus looked up, his eyes already calculating. "Every system has weaknesses," he responded, returning to the communication relay he was rebuilding. "The trick is finding them before they find you." His preparation was nothing like what the alien scientists expected. While they anticipated physical training, Marcus focused on understanding. He spent hours reviewing every available recording of the combat arena. He studied the technical specifications, the environmental modulators, the quantum stabilization systems. Where others saw an impossible challenge, he saw a complex system waiting to be understood. The salvage station's advanced simulation room became his training ground. He created multiple scenario reconstructions, testing different approaches, understanding how environmental changes could be manipulated. His background in systems engineering gave him a perspective that was fundamentally different from traditional combat training. Most fascinating was how he approached the challenge, not as a fight to be won, but as a problem to be solved. Each potential scenario was a system with inputs, outputs, and potential points of intervention. While the alien champions prepared with centuries of combat optimization, Marcus prepared with the mind of an engineer who had survived the most challenging environments in known space. His selection came suddenly. A transmission arrived, requesting his immediate transfer to the pre-challenge preparation facility. Most would have been nervous. Marcus saw it as another interesting challenge, another system to understand and navigate. As he packed his minimal belongings, his colleagues watched with a mixture of respect and disbelief. The universe was about to witness something unprecedented, a human who saw the impossible as just another problem waiting to be solved. The Quantum Research Collective's primary analysis center became a hive of intense activity. Holographic displays stretched across massive chambers, each screen depicting a different aspect of the human candidate's potential performance. Thousands of researchers from hundreds of civilizations worked tirelessly to analyze every possible scenario. Dr. Exelnar, the lead xenobiological analyst, projected a comprehensive breakdown of human physiological limitations. His 8-fingered hands manipulated complex data streams, highlighting the seemingly insurmountable challenges Marcus would face. Humans appeared remarkably fragile compared to the six champion species. Their bone density, muscle composition, and sensory capabilities were laughably inadequate by galactic standards. The preliminary reports read like a catalog of biological weaknesses. Human cardiovascular systems couldn't withstand rapid pressure changes. Their muscular structures would break down under extreme gravitational stress. Their neural pathways were too slow to process the rapid environmental shifts of the combat arena. Each metric painted a picture of a species fundamentally unprepared for advanced combat environments. Betting systems across the galaxy became a spectacle of their own. Quantum algorithmic predictors calculated survival probabilities with increasing precision. The numbers were consistently and overwhelmingly negative. Most projections gave the human less than a 0.01% chance of surviving 30 seconds, let alone the full 3-minute challenge. The preparation facility resembled a scientific museum more than a training center. Marcus underwent a battery of tests that would have broken most species. Gravitational stress chambers pushed his body to impossible limits. Neural interface scans mapped his cognitive responses under extreme conditions. Each test was designed to demonstrate human inadequacy. Interestingly, Marcus approached each test with a calm that confused the researchers. Where most subjects would show signs of stress, he treated each challenge like an interesting problem to solve. His heart rate remained consistent. His cognitive responses showed remarkable adaptability that the standard alien metrics struggled to quantify. The most advanced scanning technologies probed his body and mind. Quantum resonance imaging revealed neural pathways that seemed to operate differently from any known species. Where most beings had specialized neural networks, Marcus's brain showed an almost fractal ability to reorganize and adapt. Political representatives from various star systems began to take notice. The challenge had transformed from a mere entertainment spectacle into a potential diplomatic event. Some saw an opportunity to demonstrate technological superiority. Others recognized the potential for a more nuanced understanding of human capabilities. Specialized commentators began to analyze the potential outcomes. Holographic simulations ran millions of scenarios, each one ending with the human candidate's swift elimination. The six champion species represented the pinnacle of evolutionary and technological enhancement. They were living weapons, being so advanced that they existed in a state between organic life and pure technological construct. The preparation facility became a place of scientific spectacle. Researchers from 100 worlds watched Marcus's every move. Betting platforms updated their odds in real time. Political analysts prepared diplomatic responses for what seemed like an inevitable and quick conclusion. Yet something about Marcus remained fundamentally unpredictable. The more they studied him, the less they understood. His background in deep space salvage had created a skill set that defied traditional scientific categorization. Where most saw a human, the most perceptive researchers saw something more. A problem solver who understood systems in a way that transcended typical biological limitations. As the final preparation days counted down, a subtle current of uncertainty began to spread. The scientific certainty that had defined the early stages of the challenge started to develop microscopic cracks. Something about this human candidate suggested that the universe might have a few surprises left. The countdown to the ultimate challenge continued, with the galaxy watching and waiting. The Universal Broadcast Network fell silent as Marcus Rodriguez stepped into the combat arena. Trillions of viewers across countless star systems watched with a mixture of anticipation and morbid curiosity. The arena itself was a marvel of technological engineering, a space that defied conventional understanding of physical environments. Crystalline walls shifted and rippled, creating a living landscape that could transform in milliseconds. Gravitational nodes hummed with potential energy, ready to create localized fields that could crush most biological entities. Quantum stabilization systems stood prepared to generate environments that would challenge the very concept of survival. 6 pedestals surrounded the central platform, each representing a champion from a different advanced civilization. Zarkon of the Crystalline Confederacy stood motionless, his translucent body refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Krell from the Granite Worlds remained immobile, his silicon-based physiology a testament to evolutionary perfection. The other 4 champions represented the pinnacle of biological and technological enhancement. Marcus wore a simple adaptive suit, nothing like the complex combat gear of the alien champions. His equipment was minimal, almost primitive by galactic standards. Where the champions were living weapons, Marcus looked like an ordinary human with nothing but his wits and a basic survival interface. The arena's primary commentator, a multi-limbed being from the Galactic Transmission Network, began the official introduction. Citizens of the known universe witnessed the most unprecedented challenge in recorded history. 1 human, 3 minutes. 6 champions, 0 probability of survival. Holographic displays tracked Marcus's vital signs. His heart rate remained remarkably steady. Neural scanners struggled to categorize his cognitive responses. Where most subjects would show signs of extreme stress, Marcus appeared calm, almost curious about the environment surrounding him. The first environmental shift occurred with brutal suddenness. Gravitational fields twisted, creating localized zones of extreme pressure. Most biological entities would be instantly crushed. The arena floor transformed, generating razor-sharp energy projections that could slice through most known materials. Marcus didn't move like a fighter. He moved like an observer, his eyes constantly scanning, analyzing. Each movement was precise, calculated. Where the champions expected a traditional combat response, Marcus treated the arena like a complex system waiting to be understood. The quantum stabilization systems began their first serious test. Localized time dilation fields activated, creating pockets where seconds could stretch into hours or compress into milliseconds. It was a technique that had defeated every previous challenger, a method designed to overwhelm biological cognitive processing. But Marcus saw something different. Where others saw chaos, he perceived patterns. His background in deep space salvage had taught him to read systems in ways that defied conventional understanding. Each environmental shift was not a threat, but a source of information. The 6 champions began to move. Their approach was synchronized, a testament to their centuries of combined combat experience. They were living weapons, each movement a calculated strike designed to eliminate any potential threat in milliseconds. Yet something was different about this moment. The Universal Broadcast Network caught a subtle change, a shift in the very fabric of expectation. Marcus Rodriguez was not fighting. He was solving a problem, and the arena itself had become his primary challenge. Trillions of viewers leaned closer to their communication devices. The impossible was about to happen, though no one quite understood how. The countdown continued. The arena's environmental systems represented the pinnacle of technological achievement. Designed by the most advanced civilizations in the known universe, the combat environment could generate and manipulate fields of energy, gravity, and quantum probability with instantaneous precision. Most challengers would be overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of the system. Marcus saw something entirely different. Where others perceived a combat environment, he recognized a complex network of interconnected systems. His hands moved almost imperceptibly, interfacing with the adaptive suit's minimal communication array. Each movement was a calculation, each gesture a potential solution to the evolving challenge. The first gravitational shift would have crushed most biological entities. Localized fields generated pressures that could compress matter into near-atomic density. Marcus understood the system's fundamental weakness. Every complex network has points of potential interference. Zarkon, the crystalline warrior, moved with impossible speed. His body refracted light, creating multiple potential attack vectors that would confuse most targeting systems. Traditional combat protocols suggested immediate evasive maneuvers. Marcus did something entirely unexpected. He stood perfectly still. not out of fear, out of calculation. His adaptive suit began to interact with the arena's quantum stabilization systems, where the designers had created layers of complex defensive mechanisms. Marcus found subtle communication pathways. Years of deep space salvage had taught him that every system has a language, a way of communicating that goes beyond traditional understanding. The quantum field generators began to respond in unexpected ways. Tiny fluctuations appeared in the arena's environmental controls, microscopic changes that would go unnoticed by most observers. But Marcus was not most observers. Krell of the Granite Worlds launched his first attack. His silicon-based physiology could generate cutting surfaces that could slice through most known materials. The attack was a marvel of evolutionary engineering, a living weapon designed to eliminate threats with surgical precision. Marcus redirected the attack using the arena's own energy fields. Instead of blocking or dodging, he used the incoming energy as a communication signal. The arena's systems began to respond to the incoming data in ways their designers had never anticipated. The other champions hesitated. Their centuries of combat experience had never prepared them for an approach that defied all traditional combat logic. Marcus was not fighting. He was conversing with the environment itself. Gravitational fields began to destabilize, not through direct intervention, but through a series of subtle manipulations that traced back to Marcus's initial interactions. The arena's complex systems started to respond to him as if he were a native component rather than an external threat. Each champion represented a different approach to combat. Zarkin's crystalline warfare, Krell's silicon-based attacks. The others brought centuries of specialized combat evolution. But none of them understood what Marcus had realized, that the arena itself was the true challenge. Communication systems began to flutter. Quantum stabilization fields showed unexpected fluctuations. The Universal Broadcast Network struggled to maintain a clear signal. Trillions of viewers watched in confusion as something unprecedented began to unfold. Marcus Rodriguez was not fighting the arena. He was becoming part of it. The champions moved to attack. Their centuries of combined combat experience focused on eliminating the human threat. But with each movement, they found themselves increasingly entangled in a system that was rapidly changing its fundamental rules. Something extraordinary was happening, and no one, not the champions, not the designers, not the trillions of viewers, fully understood what that something was. The countdown continued. The Universal Broadcast Network captured every microscopic detail of what was about to unfold. 30 seconds, a duration that would redefine everything known about biological potential, about survival, about the very nature of adaptation. Marcus Rodriguez moved with a precision that defied conventional understanding. His interactions with the arena systems had transformed the environment from a combat zone into a complex dialogue. Where the six champions saw a battlefield, he saw an intricate network of communicating systems. The first champion, Zarkon, found his crystalline body suddenly destabilized, not through direct attack, but through a subtle manipulation of quantum fields that made his molecular structure lose cohesion. His attack vectors disappeared, replaced by a fundamental uncertainty about his own physical existence. Krell of the Granite Worlds discovered his silicon-based physiology suddenly vulnerable. The arena's gravitational fields, which he had mastered for centuries, began to respond to Marcus in ways that defied all known physical laws. Pressure points that should have been impossible to manipulate suddenly became fluid, malleable. Each champion represented the pinnacle of evolutionary and technological enhancement. They were living weapons, beings so advanced that they existed in a state between pure biological life and technological construct. But Marcus Rodriguez represented something entirely different, a problem solver who understood systems in a way that transcended traditional biological limitations. The arena's quantum stabilization systems began to react in unprecedented ways. Localized time dilation fields that had previously defeated every challenger now responded to Marcus as if he were a native component. Trillions of viewers watched in collective disbelief as the impossible began to unfold. Communication networks across the galaxy struggled to process what was happening. Betting systems crashed. Scientific analysis platforms began to generate error messages. The fundamental assumptions about biological potential were being rewritten in real time. Marcus did not fight in any traditional sense. He communicated. Each movement was a complex dialogue with the arena's systems. Gravitational fields shifted. Energy projections redirected. The very fabric of the combat environment began to respond to him in ways its designers could never have anticipated. The six champions found themselves increasingly entangled in a system that was rapidly changing its fundamental rules. Their centuries of combined combat experience became irrelevant. Marcus was not defeating them. He was rendering their entire approach obsolete. Quantum scanners captured something extraordinary. Marcus's neural pathways were interacting with the arena's systems in a way that defied all known biological limitations. Where most beings would be overwhelmed, he was adapting, communicating, transforming. 30 seconds. That was all it took to challenge everything known about biological potential. The champions stood frozen, their advanced systems suddenly uncertain. The arena itself seemed to pause, as if trying to understand what had just occurred. The Universal Broadcast Network captured the moment of transformation. Trillions of viewers across countless star systems watched as something unprecedented happened. A single human had not just survived, he had redefined the very concept of survival. Political representatives from advanced civilizations found themselves suddenly reevaluating decades of scientific understanding. The betting systems that had calculated near-zero survival chances now generated error messages. Scientific analysis platforms began to generate reports that would take years to fully comprehend. Marcus Rodriguez stood at the center of the arena, calm and focused. To him, this was not a victory. This was simply another interesting problem solved. The 30 seconds that would change everything had just concluded. The moment of Marcus Rodriguez's triumph sent shockwaves through the known universe that would resonate for generations. Diplomatic channels erupted in a frenzy of communication, with representatives from thousands of star systems struggling to comprehend the implications of what they had witnessed. The Quantum Research Collective's primary analysis center became ground zero for a scientific revolution. Researchers who had spent decades dismissing human potential now found themselves re-examining every fundamental assumption about biological adaptation. Holographic displays crashed under the weight of data that defied existing scientific models. Betting systems across multiple star systems experienced total collapse. Entire economic models built on the perceived limitations of human capabilities suddenly became obsolete. The financial implications were astronomical. Trillions of credits vanished in moments, replaced by a new understanding that would reshape galactic economics. Political leaders gathered in emergency sessions. The challenge had been more than a simple combat demonstration. It was a moment that would redefine interspecies relations. Diplomatic envoys from the most advanced civilizations found themselves scrambling to understand how a species they had consistently underestimated could demonstrate such extraordinary potential. The Universal Broadcast Network continued to replay the 30-second event, with each viewing revealing new layers of complexity. Analysts worked around the clock, attempting to decode Marcus's interactions with the arena's systems. What had appeared to be a simple survival challenge had become a comprehensive demonstration of human adaptive capabilities. Scientific conferences were hastily convened. Leading xenobiologists, quantum physicists, and evolutionary experts found themselves challenged by a performance that broke every known theoretical framework. The human candidate had not just survived, he had fundamentally altered the understanding of biological potential. Marcus Rodriguez became an instant global symbol, not as a hero, but as a representative of a potential that had been consistently overlooked. Communication requests flooded every known channel. Political entities that had previously dismissed humans as a minor species now sought diplomatic engagement. The six champion species found themselves in an unprecedented position. Centuries of technological and evolutionary superiority have been challenged in 30 seconds. Their scientific and military leadership began intensive reviews, attempting to understand how their most advanced combat environment could be so thoroughly neutralized by a single human. Diplomatic protocols began to shift. Trade negotiations that had previously marginalized human colonies now sought comprehensive engagement. The economic implications were profound. Species that had viewed humans as a lower-tier civilization now recognized them as a potential wildcard in galactic relations. Research institutions across the galaxy redirected their focus. Funding for human-related studies exploded. Where previous research had been minimal and dismissive, now there was an insatiable hunger to understand a species that could transform a combat arena into a system of communication. The challenge had been more than a test of survival. It had become a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. Marcus Rodriguez had not just survived, he had revealed a way of understanding complex systems that transcended traditional biological and technological limitations. Philosophical debates erupted across multiple civilizations. What did it mean to be intelligent? How could adaptation be understood beyond traditional evolutionary models? The 30-second event became a pivotal moment in galactic understanding. Political cartographers began to redraw diplomatic maps. Trade routes that had been fixed for centuries suddenly became fluid. The human colonies, previously considered marginal, now became points of intense interest and potential strategic importance. As the initial shock began to settle, one thing became abundantly clear. The universe had just witnessed something extraordinary. A single human had challenged every fundamental assumption about biological potential, about survival, about the very nature of adaptation. The 30 seconds that would change everything had only just begun to reveal their true significance. The days following the 30-second challenge marked a turning point in galactic civilization. Marcus Rodriguez found himself at the center of a transformation that extended far beyond his personal achievement. Research facilities across multiple star systems began intensive studies to understand the fundamental principles he had demonstrated. Diplomatic compounds buzzed with unprecedented activity. Human representatives, previously relegated to minor negotiation roles, now found themselves at the center of high-level strategic discussions. The challenge had revealed something profound about human potential, a capacity for adaptive thinking that transcended traditional technological and biological limitations. Scientific institutions redirected entire research programs. Where previous studies had focused on human physical limitations, now there was an intense exploration of cognitive adaptability. Marcus's interaction with the combat arena became a case study in systemic communication, challenging fundamental understanding of intelligence and problem-solving. The economic implications were equally transformative. Trade routes that had previously marginalized human colonies now sought comprehensive engagement. Technological exchange programs were established with unprecedented speed. Species that had once viewed humans as a minor civilization now recognized them as a potentially critical strategic partner. Marcus himself remained remarkably unchanged, offered multiple diplomatic positions, research opportunities, and significant financial rewards. He approached each opportunity with the same calm, analytical approach he had demonstrated in the arena. To him, the challenge had been simply another interesting problem to solve. Deep space exploration programs experienced a sudden surge of interest. Human candidates who had previously been overlooked now found themselves at the forefront of scientific and exploratory missions. The 30-second event had demonstrated that adaptability could be more valuable than predetermined technological enhancement. Philosophical debates erupted across multiple civilizations. What did it mean to be intelligent? How could adaptation be understood beyond traditional evolutionary models? The challenge became a pivotal moment in understanding biological potential, challenging centuries of established scientific thought. Educational systems across multiple species began to modify their approach. Curriculum designers studied Marcus' background, attempting to understand the educational and experiential factors that had contributed to his extraordinary performance. The focus shifted from technological enhancement to adaptive thinking. The six champion species found themselves in an unprecedented position of reflection. Centuries of technological superiority had been challenged in a moment. Their scientific and military leadership initiated comprehensive reviews, attempting to understand how their most advanced combat environment could be neutralized so completely. Political cartographers began to redraw diplomatic maps. Human colonies, previously considered marginal, now became points of intense strategic interest. Diplomatic protocols that had existed for generations suddenly required comprehensive reevaluation. Research into human potential exploded across multiple scientific disciplines. Quantum physicists, xenobiologists, and cognitive researchers found themselves exploring new theoretical frameworks. The 30-second event had revealed a form of intelligence that defied traditional understanding. Marcus Rodriguez became more than an individual. He became a symbol of a fundamental truth about potential, that adaptability, creativity, and systemic understanding could transcend technological enhancement. His background in deep space salvage became a case study in practical problem-solving. The Universal Broadcast Network continued to analyze the 30 seconds that had changed everything. Each review revealed new layers of complexity, new insights into how Marcus had transformed a combat environment into a system of communication. As the initial shock began to settle, one thing became abundantly clear. The universe had just witnessed something extraordinary. A single human had challenged every fundamental assumption about biological potential, about survival, about the very nature of adaptation. The 30 seconds that would change everything had only just begun to reveal their true significance.